Welcome to another production of Source Selection Soundbites. These productions foster learning, insight, and the ability to perform. Today's topic is past performance evaluation nuances. Past performance is a very flexible factor that can be evaluated in many different ways. The methodologies used by contracting officers are largely within agency discretion. However, there are rules that affect the acquisition strategies and evaluation methodologies a contracting officer may implement during an acquisition. The first thing to consider is the FAR authority that will be utilized for the acquisition. Once this is settled, the agency must be sure it understands a neutral rule, which is applicable to competition, regardless of the authority utilized. FAR Subpart 15 Negotiated Procurement sets forth two types of requirements: the universal requirements of past performance evaluation and FAR 15 specific requirements. The universal requirements set forth how the agency will evaluate past performance in terms of currency, relevance, source, context of the data, and general performance trends. The description of its general approach to evaluation past performance, and stating that vendors who have no relevant past performance will not be treated favorably or unfavorably. The FAR 15 specific requirements, such as authorizing submission of problems and correct taken to solve them, and the admonition that the agency should consider the past performance of predecessor companies, key personnel, and subcontractors that perform critical aspects of performance. Lastly, under FAR Subpart 15, other small business requirements become applicable when certain acquisition strategies are utilized. The agency should also be aware of specific small business administration requirements related to the evaluation of joint ventures and the treatment of protégés when evaluating past performance. There are also rules on how the CO must evaluate small business past performance along with its first contractors, and a requirement to consider small business references collected from its large business partners when applicable. Other negotiated procurement authorities, such as FAR 8.4, FAR 13, FAR 13.5, and FAR 16.5, are not required to use past performance as an evaluation factor. It is totally discretionary to use it. FAR subparts 8.4 and 13 expressly say that the agency may use past performance as a factor. The word may describes the wide latitude the agency has in decision-making. FAR 16.5 says the CO should consider past performance on earlier orders when awarding task orders. Should does not mean evaluation of past performance is mandatory. It means that it is expected course of action unless the CO has a reason for not doing so. Given that meaning, the CO can just document the file explaining why it's not an appropriate discriminator for the acquisition. If past performance is evaluated using these other kinds of negotiated procurement, the universal laws still apply. That is, the agency must evaluate the currency, relevance, source, and context of the data, express its general approach to evaluating past performance, and it must not penalize vendors that don't demonstrate relevant past performance. In addition, as before, the CO must implement certain rules promulgated by the Small Business Administration when they are applicable to the agency's acquisition strategy and the proposal or quotation submitted in response to the acquisition. Now, let's discuss the number one universal rule regarding the evaluation of past performance. It's called the neutral rule. It's the rule that prohibits downgrading the proposal of offers that do not demonstrate relevant past performance or vendors for which past performance does not exist. Specifically, the rule says that offers without a record of relevant past performance or for whom the information on past performance is not available, the offeror may not be evaluated favorably or unfavorably. That means the CO is not to take a position one way or the other concerning the contractor's abilities based on the non-existent performance or performance information that is not relevant. This approach helps companies with no past performance record break into the government market. Since the rule says a vendor without relevant past performance cannot be treated unfavorably, a contracting officer must know what it means to treat a vendor in an unfavorable manner in the context of a source selection. Unfavorable treatment comes in at least three ways. 1. Assigning adverse ratings to past performance that should receive a neutral rating. 2. Disqualify a vendor for not possessing relevant past performance. And 3. Eliminating a vendor from a competitive range solely for a neutral rating. Assigning an unfavorable past performance rating frequently occurs when neutral ratings should be assessed. Disqualifying the vendor means that they are not even considered for award given the neutral status of their past performance rating. The last infraction is similar to the one we just addressed. It occurs when the CO eliminates a vendor from a competitive range solely because the vendor has a neutral past performance rating. In the last slide, we said one way a vendor is treated unfavorably is assigning an unfavorable past performance rating when a neutral rating should be assessed. Here is the overall rating chart frequently used in acquisitions. We can see that substantial and satisfactory confidence ratings are favorable ratings and limited and no confidence ratings are unfavorable ratings. As one might expect, the neutral rating is the midpoint. Contracting officers often unwittingly assign the adverse past performance rating of limited confidence when the past performance information provided is grossly irrelevant, but they should assess a neutral rating. For example, if the agency's requirement is $50 million, but a vendor submits performances for $500,000 or less with good performance ratings, its performances are grossly irrelevant. In this situation, the agency should assign a neutral rating because the performances submitted are not relevant, but instead, many COs would assign a limited confidence rating, which amounts to unfavorable treatment. The exception to just assigning a neutral rating is when the relevant past performance demonstrates poor performance. In that case, a limited or no confidence rating may be assessed. To wrap things up, let's review what we discussed. We discussed the evaluation of past performance in different negotiated procurement environments, applicable SBA regulations, and the nuances of a neutral rule. Thank you for watching another episode of Source Selection Soundbites. For additional information, check out some of the other videos in this series, other Productivity Partners materials, or our Source Selection Answer app that is available on the Google Play Store and Apple Store. In any event, thanks for watching and see you next time.